Welcome back to Varsity KC. Chris Goff here, joined by our high school wrestling analyst, Mr. Kyle Haas. Kyle, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here, Chris.
First time to be with you on this big set.
It's a big time.
I know,
a big time
it
right
really
now.
is.
I wore your alma mater's colors in honor of it.
Belton Pirates. No, I don't see a Belton Pirate on your list, but we'll get to that in a minute, okay?
We will.
You have kept track all year long of the Kansas City high school wrestling scene, much to the delight of many of our viewers out there, because, you know, this is something we haven't really tapped into a lot lately, but you did a great job this year, by the way.
Appreciate it, Chris. That's a lot coming from you.
It is.
I know it's not it's not your style necessarily, but yeah, it's been fun. It was a lot of fun this year on both sides of the state line, so it was a good time.
Well, you've compiled a list of the top wrestlers in the Kansas City area, and let's of course, I can't help but say that the majority coming from Oak Park and Blue Springs, which is not a shock to anyone out there. But take me through this list. Let's start with the 106s. All
right, let's start it off with Noah Tini of Oak Park, sophomore. He finished the season 40-7, Class 3 champion, and he beat Fohei of Hannibal by pin in the second period. Really solid wrestler. We're going to see a lot of these Oak Park kind of kids. They wrestle a tough style and really impressive match at state finals. Yeah, it really was no contest with this as being a state champion.
Oak Park, it's amazing what Oak Park has done for decades now in Kansas City.
Yeah, impressive wrestler. Let's keep it in the Northland though as we go to 113, and that is Jarrett Singh of Kearney, 113-pound 13-pound champion at Class 3, 52-4 record.
Wow.
That's really impressive. Anytime you get over 45 matches, period, much less winning over 50. He wins 3-1 decision over Fort Zumwalt West's Nelson. A kid he kind of was behind the rankings all year. Really impressive wrestler. The lone Kearney Bulldog, but that's not a discredit to the program. They were impressive this year as they finished second in our All-Metro team rankings.
Did you shoot all this, by the way, too?
I did shoot
all
all
this.
this.
You are the one-man band here, man.
Trying to. All right, let's move on to 120, and we will go with Oak Park's Brad Perkins. Finished the season 34-0, has yet to be defeated in high school. His record is nearly 100-0. He wins by a 9-2 margin over Warrensburg's Kemp, Class 3 champion. He's the only kid who gave Isaac Dalgarian, the 120-pound champion from St. Thomas Aquinas, his only loss at the Baser-Linwood tournament. He's only a junior. He'll be back. He has a chance to be a 3-time state champion, and the way he wrestles, it's really tough to unseat him and knock him off. And then at 126, we see our first Wildcat from Blue Springs, Daniel Lewis. He's a sophomore, 42-2, another impressive record, Class 4 champion. Tech fall in the finals over Baumgartner of Jefferson City. He wrestles so strong, and after he lost to Colston DeBlasi at our Metro Wrestling Slam at Winnetonka High School, he rebounded, wrestled really well, wrestled a good state tournament, and anytime you're scoring a lot of bonus points, which is what he does, he did it in finals. Really impressive wrestler, pound for pound, one of the best wrestlers in the state of Missouri.
Just a sophomore as well.
Just a sophomore, has a chance to be a four-timer as he picked up a second consecutive state title. 132, we see our first wrestler from Kansas, and it was a four-timer, Bo Purcell of Lansing, senior, 44-0, wrestles a lot of matches. He's pretty much wrestling every match possible he could in the state of Kansas. A 4-1 decision over Cody Eastman of Arkansas City. Really, he's probably the best tactical wrestler, as when he's getting lifted up, when he's in the bottom position, when he stands up and he's going down, he was the best wrestler at positioning himself for the stand-up or the switch or the re-switch. I mean, he is really good on the mat, and he was impressive to watch at 132 pounds. We move on to 138, and Derek Lapaya, junior out of Blue Springs, 49-1 on the season. Another great wrestler out of the Blue Springs wrestling program. He wins by pin in the third period over Felon of Nixa, and you know, he has a chance to be a 3-timer. He picked up his second consecutive state title. Lapaya, Lewis, and the next wrestler we're going to get to here in a second, these guys really drill hard, and they're 24/7, 365 wrestlers. This is what they do. They go in and they wrestle hard, and it proved while they got a second consecutive state title. And then we move on to 145-pound, and we're halfway through our list. Greg Hagerty, the senior out of Blue Springs, he picked up his second consecutive state title at 145 pounds. A 48-1 record, just astonishing. Given the schedule that all these Blue Springs wrestlers went through, they dueled Staley. They dueled against Kearney. I mean, these guys really went after it. He wins by a second period pin himself over Ream of Holt. It was the second consecutive week he had beat him, and just to wrestle in the manner he did was really impressive. So we're halfway through the list. You see nearly half the team is Blue Springs wrestlers, but that is due to in part how good they wrestle and how good they drill. Impressive team so far, and so we're halfway through, and I can tell folks probably a little biased towards the Missouri side, but they've just wrestled so many more times than when they went head-to-head against Kansas teams. They turned out on top.
I mean, you saw what Blue Springs did this season. Also, Oak Park with their great legacy. I mean, it's no shock that you're going to have a lot of Missouri kids on here. Not to take anything away from Kansas.
No, and there are Kansas kids coming up when we come back. We will definitely get to the Sunflower State and showcase some of the.
Well, that's your hometown, so I know you're not going to leave them out. Okay, coming up, more high school wrestling. Kyle runs down the rest of the weight classes, starting with the 152s. All that coming up when Varsity KC returns right after this. Welcome back, Varsity KC. Chris Goff, Kyle Haas. High school wrestling has taken over the show, and Mr. Haas driving the bus. We're about halfway through his all-Metro sports wrestling team. Have we ever done this before, by the way?
Not to my knowledge.
I don't think we have. Okay?
I blame Sean Belden.
Well, I'm giving you credit. I wasn't trying to throw Belden under the bus, but good. I'm glad you did do that. We're going to restart now. You're halfway through. Heavy on the Oak Park and Blue Springs, but now we start with 152s, Kyle.
All right, let's hit it up with 152. We stay in the Northland, though. Aaron Engel of Staley, a senior, finishes up the season 41-8, Class 3 state champion, with a 3-1 overtime decision over Barty of St. Charles West. An impressive wrestler, wrestled a very difficult schedule. Like what we talked about, all these kids are on this because they wrestled good matches, not just that they have an inflated record or anything like that. They wrestled tough competition, and that's kind of what was the deciding factor on a lot of these. If there were duplicate state champions kind of on different classes, we went head-to-head on when they wrestled, and Aaron Engel, impressive job for the senior from Staley. A 160, we switch over back to Kansas, and we see Connor Middleton, the Olathe Northwest wrestler. He's a senior. He's the only state champion ever from the Ravens program. He's a two-timer, 41-1, 6A champion, 3-1 over Cody Carson of Shawnee Mission North. So there was some Sunflower Showcase there, and we see this in his match from our Metro Classic. It was an exhibition match, but really want to see he was really good on his feet, smart, heady wrestler, and good job for the Ravens of getting a wrestler in as they're starting to build that program up.
Sure.
170, we head back to the Show Me State, and Chase Rissinger of Oak Grove, he's a senior, finishes off the season 49-3, Class 2 champion for the Panthers. And you know, you talk about the Oak Parks, the Carneys, and the Staleys, Blue Springs as well, but Oak Grove is a program in Class 2 that just continues to churn out very strong wrestlers.
It's amazing, too, at that level.
They had a strong team all the way around, but Rissinger was really the anchor on that team, and he wrestled a heck of a match over Suthiff of Clinton in a 7-3 decision. He was down early on and was able to bounce back, but anyway, he wrestled well, wrestled against good competition throughout the year, and that's really, continue to say, that is the number one thing in deciding this list. 182, we'll head back to Kansas, where we see Reese Wright Conklin, arguably the best wrestler to come out of the city of Lawrence, the only 3-time state champion. He beat Trey Campbell of Manhattan with the second period pin in the state championship. Anytime you get a tech fall or pin, and that's what all these guys are doing, you kind of see these guys are dominant wrestlers at their weight class. So for the most part, it wasn't too difficult to decide who was going to be it. 38-2, two of those losses kind of have an asterisk attached to him, but he was an impressive wrestler at 6A and has a heck of a career ahead for Newman University.
How often do you get a pin in the championships?
It's rare, but
very rare.
It seems like it just happens all the time for these guys. 195, Oak Park. We see our third Northman on the list is senior Hasim Omari. He's going to head to Newman as well, so you have Reese Wright Conklin and Hasim Omari in Wichita next year, wrestling for the Newman program. 10-2 victory over Ruark of Willard. 39-0, finishes off the year undefeated. Very difficult to do, but Class 3 champion. He avenged his kind of fall last year in the semis and kind of was dedicated throughout the year. And Oak Park, they only had 7 guys at state, but 3 of them were state champions and 3 of them make our list. If that gives any more accreditation to Coach Rupp and his program over there. All right, we get to the heavier weights. In 220, we see a guy we didn't really talk much about, but Nathan Butler of Leavenworth, the junior, 42-1 this season as a 6A wrestler, pinned Brad Wilson of Lawrence in the finals, but Butler wrestled very kind of under the radar type matches, and he wasn't at the big marquee tournaments, but that's not in his fault. He wrestled who was ahead of him. 220 was kind of a weight class that most of the weight classes was pretty deep. This was a weight class that was a little on the thinner side, but a good job by Butler, and he'll have a chance to repeat as state champion next year at 220, because you can obviously tell he's got some room to work on that frame. And then the supreme weight class, the 285-pound, comes to the guy who probably could have wrestled 220 himself, Trent Hosick. We've talked about it many a times, the Staley Jr. He's starting quarterback, yet wrestles heavyweight, 29-0 on the season. Heading into state, he was the only wrestler to give Evan Boehm, the defending heavyweight champion in Class 4, his lone loss. A double overtime decision, 3-2 over Kevin Estel of Belton. So sorry for your Pirates, but
I think Hosick's pretty much a stud here.
Yeah, Trent Hosick could pretty much wrestle at any weight class and win, and he's a freak specimen to watch, to be that small and that quick and that strong to outlast. So 285 was actually very difficult to decide, because you had guys from Pleasant Hill and Harrisonville and kind of on our outskirts that really wrestled well and wrestled in the Class 2 finals. You obviously have Evan Boehm, but Trent Hosick was the king of them all and deciding that, so that kind of cemented everything. But really, this class and this grouping, there's a lot of room for discussion. Just want to clarify, it was based on you had to win your state tournament, or whoever had the best finish at their own state tournament. Then it was head-to-head matches that were kind of the tiebreaker. So we could go 1 and 1A, 1B, 1C if we really wanted to stretch this thing out. But the key was making sure that this is the cream of the crop in high school wrestling here in the KC Metro.
I don't think anyone's going to give you trouble. Okay, I think you did it very fairly. We watched you, and it's all good. But thanks for doing this, because I hope this continues to be an annual tradition.
I do as well, and we get to see a lot of these kids, and a lot of these kids are going to go off and wrestle in local programs. Purcell's going to wrestle at Baker. I can talk about Omari and Wright Conklin are going to wrestle at Newman. So these guys we're going to see a little bit of them. And I mean, there were some injuries that kids going to wrestle at Nebraska or other places like that hopefully we'll get to see their careers continue to prosper.
Thanks a lot, Kyle. Good job, man. One more segment to go on Varsity KC, and we turn one more time to high school basketball. One more look at the Durena finalists, both men and women. That's coming up. You're watching Time Warner Cable Metro Sports.